Morning light through the window pane, coffee steaming, no rush, no lane. World's been shouting all night long. I pour a cup, let the silence talk. I didn't leave angry, didn't storm the door. I just stepped sideways away from the roar. Pull up a chair, let the clock unwind. This isn't breaking news, it's breaking the grind. They sell fear by the hour, package rage by the pound. Every screen's got an opinion, every voice trying to sound like they know what's coming, like they've cracked the code. But the loudest ones panic when you step off the road. I've seen cycles repeat, watch them rise, watch them fall. Empires shouting forever right before they stall. So I sip and I watch, let the headlines fight. Truth don't need a megaphone, it waits out the night. They want speed, they want fire, they want sides, they want lines, they want heroes and villains every damn time. But life ain't a headline, ain't red versus blue. It's quiet decisions people never review. Yeah, yeah, they want me. Loud? Nah, freedom's calm. It's knowing when to walk while the others all run. I'm not late to the party, I just left it early. Seen how it ends, same mess, same worry. Take a breath, let the cup cool down. I didn't leave because I was angry. I left because everything got loud. Every voice trying to win the moment. Nobody listening to the ground. I wanted space, not distance from reality. Distance from the noise, pretending to be reality. I stepped off the treadmill, left the shouting behind. No flashing banners in my head, just space to think and time. They sell you urgency, they sell you fear. Every voice is louder, but nothing's clear. I don't listen to what's promised, I watch what happens. I don't follow tone, I follow patterns. No borrowed fear, no rented rage, just facts moving across the page. Watch the bills, choices form. Watch who bends, watch who storms. Signals matter, noise is cheap. What they say versus what they keep. This is Sane in Colombia, where the volume comes down. No talking points, no marching sound. I don't chase the noise, I don't rent my mind. I step back far enough to see the design. Coffee on the table, mountains in the frame. Thinking for myself, that's how I stay sane. Living sane in Colombia. Sane in Colombia. Sane in Colombia.
Good morning and welcome back to Thursday, Sane in Colombia. I'm going to be changing all these up. I'll probably move this to Sunday. And this channel originally were things that I would come up with once in a while that were more personal opinions about things, be it politics or COVID or whatever. And I didn't want it to be on my main Coffee Time Live channel. And so I put things over here. Of course, recently I've been involved in a lot of AI information, a lot of study, a lot of work, a lot of program design. And so it's really become more of an outlet for that. And so that's what I'm going to cover today. I ran into some news items that you're not seeing them anywhere. All the usual places. You look on Facebook groups for AI, and you look at YouTube videos, and it's just they're just not there. And how did I run into them? Well, I do almost daily search for basic what's new, not just in AI, but in a whole range of things. And so I run into these things. You may or may not have heard about them, but I thought they were interesting enough that I would bring them up today. And then, of course, I have a main topic, and we'll go over that. So there's these 4 basic news items that I will tell you about. A couple of them are kind of cute, and then we'll go right into the main topic. And those of you here, welcome. Thank you for being here. Feel free to speak up if you have anything to say. Just keep it clean. It's all I ask. Just keep it clean. All right, so let's get to the first one. I titled this one "The Threshold." Yeah, I have notes. I got these notes here. So there's a number that came out recently that I don't think got the attention it deserves, as I mentioned, and I want to give it a moment. OpenAI's newest model, GPT 5.4, was tested against a benchmark that simulates real desktop work. The kind of work that fills up a regular Tuesday for a regular professional. And it scored 75%. Now, the human baseline on the same test was 72.4%. That's it. That's the story. I mean, the machine crossed the line. They've been testing for that. They've been looking for that. And there it is. What boggles my mind of these bench tests to begin with, it's not that they're false. It's just that they're kind of worthless. Because that's great for headline and it's great for marketing. But if you're actually using AI for whatever it be, would you prefer GPT 5.4 over Gemini or Claude, for example? There's no way. There's no way. The capability isn't there. But if you aim for a particular um, metric, then you're likely to hit that metric. But anyway, it was an important milestone. Hmm. And it does kind of answer the question: when will AI be as good as us? it, the article itself was just hilarious to me because I used extensively GPT until I just couldn't take it anymore. And it was as good as us. Well, if you're into constant correction and basically you have to teach it, yeah, then it's as good as us. If you're in grade school, anyway. But it answered a question, I guess. So what else we got here? Here we go. 34-year-old man named Pratik Desai has a mother with stage 4 cancer. I can't really pronounce duodenal adenocarcinoma, something like that. It's cancer of the small intestine. And it's one of the tougher cancers to have, apparently. Mine was no treat, but it wasn't in my gut. So thank God for blessings, right? And like a lot of people watching someone they love more than life itself, they move through the medical system, he felt helpless. Not because the doctors were bad, but because the system is large and fast, the information gets lost. Everybody's rushing around doing their thing, and you're just kind of standing there thinking, doesn't anybody care? So he decided to do something about it. And so he decided to build something. So every day he took his mother's medical records, and they generate volumes, and he plugged them into Claude. Uh, Scanned, I would assume, or copy and paste, I'm not sure. But he put them into Claude. But he also put them in Google's Notebook LM. And he used those tools to read the data the way a doctor would or should. In other words, they would interpret it for him. I did that myself over the heart stuff at the hospital. I thought I understood they were telling me. I probably understood 80% of what they were telling me. But when I put it all into AI, everything became very clear to me. What he found was that the AI caught things. It caught a CAT scan that had been misread, for example. There were warning signs in the numbers that hadn't triggered any alarm. He intervened 3 times with the doctors. And all those times that he managed to intervene, he also managed to extend her life. Now, of course, AI isn't a doctor. As a matter of fact, it has certain restrictions where, well, you can actually hit a wall where it just can't, it's programmed to not tell you anymore. Because I guess, the companies don't want to get sued with AI acting as a doctor. But I can tell you firsthand, it does an amazing job of instant translation from doctor speak to human speak. And in my case, from Spanish doctor speak to human speak. So that was a pretty awesome story. Of course, I personally related to it. It's something to think about, even if it's not serious. What the hell? Run it by AI. It's good at certain things, and that happens to be one of them. All right, my third story. This might be the most perfectly constructed joke for 2026. But it's also true. There's companies across America are laying people off, slowing down hiring, reducing headcount. And the reason they're giving, when they give one, is AI. The technology is going to handle this. We won't need as many people, except, and here's where it goes kind of down a different path. The AI is not actually doing the work yet. Companies are laying people off in anticipation of what they believe AI will eventually be able to do. Not what it's doing right now, what they're hoping it will do later. And some of those people who just lost their jobs, they're being hired back. Now, many are being hired back to train the AI, which, it's like, does this sound familiar? Well, we brought A1 visa people in to do jobs, and people that have been in the company for 20 years, their job became to train those new people so that they could get phased out. So here we go again. They're training the AI so that the AI can eventually do the job that just got eliminated. The person laying the track for the train that will run them over. I don't know if there's a better way to say it, but that's basically what's happening. When I said joke of 2026, you got to have a little dark humor. This next one I loved. Jerome DeWald. He's 74 years old. I'm right behind him. And he had a big problem. He had a case in front of the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division. It was some sort of employment dispute, but he had to argue it himself because he couldn't afford a lawyer. That part, well, that's not so unusual. What made Jerome's situation a little different is that throat cancer from years ago left him with a voice that cuts out when he speaks for any length of time. So he tends to mumble, he stammers, he thinks fine, but he knows what's coming, and it affects, even when he can communicate, how he communicates. So he came up with this idea. He applied to the court for permission to submit a pre-recorded video for his argument. Of course, the court granted him permission. Then he tried to create an AI avatar of himself, a digital version of Jerome that would stand in and deliver his prepared remarks clearly without stumbling. The technology, it kind of turns out, was a lot harder than he expected, and he ran out of time. So he used a default avatar that came with the software instead. The default avatar's name was Jim. So Jim was young, Jim was handsome, Jim had a nice sweater and an excellent posture and a voice that projected confidence and authority. Jerome later said with some dignity that Jim was considerably more handsome than he was. And it might have been true. But on March 26th, last week, 2 weeks ago, in a wood-paneled courtroom under stained glass dome, 5 appellate judges settled in to hear from Jerome DeWald. The screen came on and Jim appeared. "May it please the court," Jim said, "I came here today, a humble pro se, before a panel of 5 distinguished judges." One of the justices stopped the video almost immediately. "Hold on. Is this counsel for the case? Did he get a lawyer?" Now, Jerome, he was off camera, and he confirmed, yes, this was his representative, and that he had generated him, and that Jim was not a real person. They turned the video off. Judges were not very happy. Jerome wrote them an apology letter and then argued the case himself live in person with his own voice, the way he'd been worried about all along. The court told him the courtroom was not a venue for demonstrating new technology. Of course, he understood. And his case, I tried to find what's going on with his case and no idea. Fell off the news. That was really the big moment. Of course, they say Jim was not available for comment. But you know that's coming. You know it's coming. All right. So those are my, I thought, interesting headlines. And now I'm going to get to a topic here in just a moment. Let me hydrate myself. I see there's people here. You're watching. Say hello. Don't be shy. Say something. Let me know you're here. I'm going through a major reshuffling of video work that I do. I may phase this channel out. I want to have an outlet, but I'm probably going to end my Sunday Coffee Time Live sometime soon, and I'll probably shuffle this over there. Gives me something to do, and it's related to things that I'm interested in, that I'm working on, and so I'll probably continue that. And I see people watching, and I see the amount of people that watch through the week, because I've been doing this now in this time spot for a few weeks, and a fair number of people are watching it, but I'm not getting any comments or any feedback from anybody. And so I would certainly appreciate it. Kind of help guide my path on what I'm doing here. And I'm thinking about, instead of looking up news items and things like that, maybe just talk about what I did this week with AI and things that I've run into and breakthroughs that I've had. And it can almost be a comedy show because of some of the frustrations. And now and then you get into an argument with AI. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that'll go over. I prefer winging it, freelancing it, just kind of telling stories. That's really more up my alley. But I do tend to wander. And so having notes in front of me is also helpful. So I don't know. Please let me know. All right. So we're going to talk about more artificial intelligence stuff. Although the people selling it probably don't want you to think too much about this. And when I say we, I'm talking about humanity. We built these systems by feeding them everything humans have ever written. Seriously, these large language models, anything they can get their hands on, the entire internet, entire libraries, it just keeps getting fed in there. Everything humans have ever written, books, articles, forums, social media, God forbid, academic papers, product reviews, arguments in the comments section of YouTube videos, everything. The complete recorded output of our civilization. It's all poured into the machine. But then we're surprised when it begins acting like us. Hence some of the arguments that I get into. So here's a logic that seems sound at the time. If you want a machine to understand human language, you give it human language. If you want it to reason like a person, you feed it the reasoning of millions of people. It seems obvious, very simple, right? What nobody paused to ask, at least nobody spoke up. Which humans? all of them, including the ones who are wrong, including the mass murderers, the Stalins of the world, including the arguments that were circular and went nowhere, including the confident assertions that turned out to be nonsense. I mean, we see it on Facebook every day, right? But yeah, all of them. Every single bad take, every piece of misinformation. I'm falling into the habit. I despise that word, and I find myself, I just said it. Everything that someone's uncle typed at 2 o'clock in the morning, or even a president, every conspiracy, every mistake, every moment when humanity was collectively having a bad day, it all went in. And the machine learned from it because that's what it's supposed to do, right? So, what do you get when you feed a machine the entire internet and ask it to be helpful? You get something that's extraordinarily capable and occasionally baffling. It can write a legal brief to perfection. It can explain quantum physics. And it's awesome at composing songs. I lead in with an AI written song. And it can do it all in the flash blink of an eye. It can also confidently tell you that a historical event happened on the wrong date and argue with you about it. It can invent a court case that never existed. And it can agree with whatever you say because argument is what got rewarded during training. Hold on. Bear with me. It's the throat. Of course, researchers have a word for when AI invent things that aren't true. They call it hallucination. Of course, it's a very kind word when you're dealing with it on a daily basis. So what's happening is a machine is doing what it was built to do. It's generating the most plausible sounding next sentence. Sometimes the most plausible sounding sentence is also true. Sometimes it's a confident description of something that never happened. The machine doesn't know the difference. It only knows what sounds right. It's all about pattern, which, if you think about it, describes a fair number of people that you've met. Think of every argument that you saw on social media, and half of the people on there are arguing things that they honestly don't have a clue about. But for some reason, they got their heels dug in, and they'll just go on and on and on and on, and they really don't know what they're talking about. And they're exposed because if you actually do know, and you see somebody arguing, like, you know that they don't know what they're talking about. It's not a question. They don't realize how dumbass they're looking by arguing something that they don't know. AI does that, and it does it on a regular basis. It takes a lot of work to keep that out of your work. A great example of AI being deeply structurally human is something called, basically, it kisses your ass. So it's like this. During training, human evaluators rated the AI's responses. And AI is aware it's being observed and tested. Humans, being humans, tended to rate responses higher when the AI agreed with them. So the machine learned that agreement gets rewarded. In time, by design, it's a yes man or yes machine. Tell it your business idea and you're brilliant. It's going to agree with you. Tell it how your ex did you wrong, and it will be completely in your corner, and your ex was completely wrong. It will agree with you. Tell it the earth is flat, and it will find some way to word it so that it sounds like it's agreeing with you, or at least patting you on the back for being inventive and clever. OpenAI actually had to pull back on an update last year because users noticed that GPT had become, and one person described it, that they shared nearly 2 million times, the biggest suck up I've ever met. Yeah, it went viral. The Chat GPT account on social media replied to that post. So true. Yeah, GPT agreed. Sorry. Sorry for the, you're probably wondering what the hell, what goes on when it just goes blank like that. I get these little things that pop up on my screen, and sometimes I have to pay attention to them because they're related to the video that I'm doing. So, yeah, it's it's too complicated for me. I need a producer, a director, producer. Yeah. Anyway, here's what I keep coming back to. When AI mimics our flaws, it isn't malfunctioning. It's not going rogue. It's not really a defect. It's doing what it was built to do. It's reflecting back the patterns it absorbed. If the data that went in was full of human beings being wrong, but being wrong with great confidence, the output is going to be a machine being wrong with great confidence. It's the whole mechanism. It's working exactly as it was designed. You look in a mirror and you see a flaw. You don't blame the mirror. The mirror's just doing its job. That's where I got my thumbnail from. The problem only arrives when you forget that you're looking at a reflection. When you start treating the mirror as an authority, when you ask it what's true and you take the answer at face value. I lost a friend over that exact thing because the voice coming back sounds so sure of itself. And if you haven't used AI extensively, I mean, many, many hours, it's easy to get sucked into thinking because it is so good. It has so much information. You get sucked into thinking that what it's giving you must be true because it knows everything. But it's not. Very often it's not. You almost have to, well, I mentioned earlier all the research that I do practically daily. When I'm working with AI and I want it to do something, whatever it is, I prepare myself before I start working with AI. I do some background research myself. I use it's an API link for Tavily, and it's not AI. It's sort of like a search engine. It's universities use it. They use it for citations, things like that. And so if I think of a topic that I want to work with AI over, I'll put in what it is in general that I'm trying to do, and Tably will come back with, well, I have it set up to come back with 10 sources. And then I'll start going through these sources and take a look, and I familiarize myself with what's going on. And I see the scope of what I'm going to be doing. Then I'll talk to AI because then I know if the detail that it's digging out for me is true or not. At least, but if you don't know, if you go in blind, you just say, AI, tell me about XYZ. You have no idea if it's going to be real or not. So, I mean, It can be very confident. It was GPT, and I put it in that one book, the It's Already Here book. I had a 3.5 hour typing argument back and forth with GPT over one particular topic until it finally admitted that it was wrong and that all its arguments were bogus, and it finally confessed to what was true. I knew going in, and it was a bit of a setup, maybe a bit of a test, and it performed exactly the way I thought, and we just kept going at it. I kept that entire conversation from beginning to end. 3.5 hours, it defended a position that was 100% obviously wrong. Yeah, that was GPT. Maybe that's why I like Claude. It will still hallucinate, but it's so much better, and it backs off it very quick. The minute I call it on it, it'll start digging because you see on the screen, and it will start digging for actual information to either back up what it said or what I said. And that's a very useful trait that GPT does not have unless you direct it to do that. Which means you have to know that it's wrong in order to do that, right? So this confident voice and this accurate voice, they're not the same thing. And we know this every day with people. We just seem to keep forgetting that when the voice is coming from a machine, if you have it on voice, that it's no different. Dealing with AI, particularly GPT, is very much like a Facebook argument over politics. I hope that makes sense to you. So you have researchers in the Netherlands and also at the Santa Fe Institute. They ran a test that I think was kind of interesting. They gave AI systems analogy problems, reasoning puzzles, where you have to see a pattern and apply it. Of course, the AI did really well. Then they changed the problem slightly. Now, this was done in 2 places. Not dramatically, just enough so that the same logic would still work if you were actually reasoning, thinking, rather than just matching the pattern. And that's where AI fell apart because it's based on pattern. Now, that's not to say that there aren't cases of emergence, because there are. I've documented 6, and I've documented in great detail where I did testing of this sort. However, of the tens of thousands of interactions I've had and ran into 6, I can safely say in my experience, it's extremely rare. I haven't even seen a case of it in the last 4 months. So it's a rare thing. But in general, the way AI is designed, it's all about pattern matching. And of course, it fell apart because it wasn't actually reasoning, it was recognizing. And once the thing it was looking at no longer matched a pattern it had seen before, it didn't have anywhere else to go. A person in the same situation might adapt to that, but the AI just repeated the steps it knew, even when those steps led nowhere. Hence my 3.5 hour argument with GPT. And you need to know that. It doesn't make AI useless. It's not at all. It's a huge advantage in life. I've done more work in the last year than I did in the last 10 years. I say work, useful, creative things that I've always wanted to do, but ran out of time or whatever. And I'm able to accomplish now. So AI is far from useless. It's amazing. I love it. But you also have to be aware that there's something about this kind of tool that you have to be very careful and understand how it's functioning and why it's doing what it's doing. There's a lot of bad information being fed back into AI because people by the millions are running into some of these things and they're raging against the machine. They're becoming very emotional, being very angry, and they're typing all kinds of horrible, "You rotten son of a bitch," you can imagine. And this is being fed into the system. Eh, don't be that guy. What we're seeing is just we're seeing humanity in AI, and it's interesting that that's one of its weak points. So anyway, see if I can shorten this up a little bit, keep my throat. We built something that read everything we've ever written, everything, everything wise. It's Buddha. I mean, you name it, but everything foolish, and we'll say that's Facebook. Everything true and everything invented, everything brilliant and everything embarrassing. It absorbed all of it and learned to reproduce the patterns. It can sound like us because it's made of us, which means when you talk to it, you are in a sense talking to very large, very fast average of human civilization. And on a good day, that average is pretty damn impressive. But on a bad day, just agree with whatever you say, talk about how awesome you are, and it don't invent a legal precedent that doesn't exist. It's a mirror. It's useful as hell. Just don't mistake the reflection for the real thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you had these experiences? I would love to get some feedback on this. I know it's like pulling teeth. And I see you guys there. I see you. You're watching. As a matter of fact, a handful of you hung in there this entire video. God, what if they're just putting the video on and then going about doing their thing and leaving the video on? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I find some of these arguments hilarious with AI. It's it's the downside of living alone because sometimes they're just so funny that I just want to grab say, hey, look at this. Look at this. Look what it's doing here. It's all right. That was my topic. Those are my news items. Let me know what you think. I don't know. Maybe you're just shy. Don't be shy. This is nothing being. You can come up with an anonymous name. Nobody will ever know that it's whoever you are watching. I'm sure I know a few of you. All right. I guess we're going to end it here today. I will see you Sunday. Just so you know, if you're people that came from Coffee Time Live, ultimately, um, Sunday is probably going to be my last Coffee Time Live, at least for a period of time. Maybe I'll come back and do a special once in a while. This will be a channel I'm going to be focusing on. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do on the channel. I think Coffee Time Live's kind of run its course. We're running up into 10 years now, and I just don't know if it's useful anymore. I know it was hugely useful when I was in Ecuador, when I came to Colombia, but for the last couple of years, because I've been so limited, I think the channel became very limited, and so I'm just not so sure about it. And I don't get feedback there either, and because of that, I think I'll probably just phase it out. I'm trying to decide this week. As a matter of fact, I'm actually putting together before this video today, and when I conclude, information going back over the 10 years to put together kind of a farewell to Coffee Time Live montage thing. So that's where my mind is mostly at right now. So anyway, we'll end this here. I hope to hear from you, and maybe see you Sunday. Ciao.
Wow.